Good morning to all. Today we discuss about second chapter in geography textbook named the signature of time. Signature of time. Look at the textbook. You can see the several maps. Look at the textbook. You can see the several maps. Identify the maps and analyze the maps. Okay. Look at the textbook. Different types of maps. Analyze. Figures number 1. Then number 2. Figures number 1. Zone of several earthquakes map. Several earthquake maps. Then second one, volcanic zone. Look at the textbook. Then second map, analyze the second map. Listen, volcanic zone. Volcanic zones. The red mark the volcanic zone. Then third picture, major mountain range map. Major mountain range map. Okay. Then yellow portions of the major mountain range map. Okay. Then you know that the crust, which is the outermost layer of the earth, is solid portion. The previous knowledge. Outer layer of the solid portions. You know the lithosphere, crust and upper part of the mantle is together lithosphere. Okay, lithosphere. The lithosphere exists as several fragments, just like a broken shell. Just like a broken shell of an egg. Broken shell of an egg. Compared to the thickness of the portion from the crust to the inner core and lithosphere is very thin. Lithosphere is very thin. These portions of the lithosphere, which are several thousand kilometers wide and roughly 100 kilometers thick, are called lithospheric plate. Listen, it means lithospheric plate. Lithospheric plate. These portions of the lithosphere, which are several thousand kilometers wide, and roughly 100 kilometers thick. 100 kilometers thick are called lithospheric plate. Okay. Two types of lithospheric plate. Two types of lithospheric plate. Major plates and minor plates. Major plates and minor plates. Okay. Each plates may exclusively contain either oceanic crust or continental crust. Oceanic crust or continental crust. Okay, look at the textbook. Page number 27. 26 or 27? 27. Lithospheric plate map. This map is lithospheric plate map. So many lithospheric plates in this map. Major plates and minor plates. Okay. See. Pacific plate, Australian plate, North American plate, then South American plate, then Antarctic plate, Eurasian plate, African plate. These plates are major plates. Very important area this chapter. Major plates and identify the major plates and minor plates. Major plates: Pacific plate, Australian plate, Antarctic plate, South American plate, North American plate, Eurasian plate, and African plates are the 7 major plates in this map. Okay. Which are the major plates? Which are they? African plates, Pacific plates, North American, South American, Eurasian, and Antarctic plates. These are the Australian plates. These are the major plates in this map. Then so many minor plates. Philippine plates, minor plates. Then Cocos, Philippines, Cocos, Nazca, Caribbean, Arabian plates are the minor plates. Cocos, Nazca, Philippine, Caribbean, Arabian plates are the minor plates. Pacific plate is the largest plate. Pacific plate is the largest plate. Okay. Lithospheric plate, 2 types of lithospheric plate, major plates and minor plates. Okay. Major plates, 7 major plates. Then Pacific is the largest plate. Then Cocos, Philippines, Nazca, Caribbean and Arabian plates are the minor plates. The next part, plate move. Plate move. Lithospheric plates are situated above the asthenosphere. Lithospheric plates are situated above asthenosphere. Above asthenosphere, which is in a semi-liquid state. Asthenosphere is semi-liquid state. Okay. Magma, which is the part of the mantle, remain molten due to the high temperature, at the earth, high temperature to the earth interior, and undergoes continuous convection. Okay. The plate move at a speed of 2 centimeter to 12 centimeter. 2 centimeter to 12 centimeter in a year. 2 centimeter to 12 centimeter in a year. The speed of this movement has not always been uniform. So many types. Okay. Listen. Once more again. Plate move. Lithosphere plates are situated above the asthenosphere, which is a semi-liquid state. Magma, which is the part of the mantle, remain molten due to the high temperature at the earth interior and undergoes continuous convection. The plate move at a speed of 2 centimeters to 12 centimeter in a year. Okay. The speed of this movement has not always been uniform. Then next, different types of plate margin. 3 types of plate margin. First one, convergent margin, divergent margin and transform margin or shear margin. First one, convergent margin. convergent margins. Second one, divergent margins. Second one, divergent margin. Third one, transform margin. Okay, three types of plate movement: convergent margins movement, then divergent margin, then last transform margin. First one, convergent margin. Convergent margin, plate move toward each other. Plate move toward each other. Fold mountains are formed. Fold mountains are formed along the convergent margins. Fold mountains are formed along the convergent margins. For example, the Himalaya. For example, the Himalaya is a fold mountain range. Himalaya is the fold mountain range formed between the Indian plate, and Eurasian plate. Indian plate and Eurasian plate. Then another example, the Himalayas, the Alps, the Andes, Himalayas, Alps, Andes, Atlas, etc. are the fold mountain examples. Okay, fold mountains are formed in convergent margins based. Okay, plates, convergent margins, plates move toward each other. Fold mountains are formed along the convergent margins. For example, Himalayas, Alps, Atlas and Andes. These are the example of the fold mountains. Then next, if there is any difference in density between the plates along the convergent margin, the denser plate will submerge under the lighter one. Okay, lighter one. These zones are called subduction zone. Okay. Ocean trenches are developed in a subduction zones. The Challenger Deep in the Pacific Ocean is an example. Listen, if there is any difference in density between the plates along the convergent margin, the denser plate will submerge under the lighter one. These zones are called subduction zone. Ocean trenches are developed in subduction zone. For example, Challenger Deep in the Pacific Ocean. This is the convergent margin based. Okay. Then another plate move divergent margin. Divergent margin means plates move away from each other. Magma comes out through the gap. Formed due to the divergent of plates and solidified from mountains. Okay. Listen. Second one, divergent margin. Divergent margin means plates move away from each other. Magma comes out through the gap. Formed due to the divergent of the plates and solidified from mountains. These types of mountains are known as mid-oceanic ridge. Mid-oceanic ridge. For example, Mid-Atlantic ridge in Atlantic Ocean. Mid-Atlantic ridge in Atlantic Ocean. Okay. For second one, divergent margin. Divergent margin means plates move away from each other. Magma come out through the gap formed due to the divergence of plates and solidified from mountains. These types of mountains are known as mid-oceanic ridge. Mid-oceanic ridge. For example, Mid-Atlantic ridge in Atlantic Ocean. Okay, clear? Then next, third one, transform margin or shear margin. Transform margin or shear margin. Plate slide past each other. Plates slide past each other. This is called transform margin. Landforms are not generally created along the margins where the plate slide past each other, but such margins are fault zone. Such margins are fault zone. For example, San Andreas fault zone in North America. San Andreas fault zone in North America. The major relief features on the Earth's surface such as the fault mountains, plateaus and volcanoes are the result of the plate movement. Okay. Listen. Look at the textbook. Page number. You can see the page number 29. Then figure 2.8. Identify the pitches. Pitches number 1. Pitches number 1, divergent margin plate. The plate move away from each other. Plate move away from each other. Then next, convergent margin. Convergent margin means plate move towards each other. Plates move towards each other. Then third, shear margin or transform plate margins. Plates slide past each other is called shear margins. Okay. Then next, earth movement. Next part, earth movement. Two type of earth movement. First one, endogenic movement, and the second one, exogenic movement. Endogenic movement and exogenic movement. Endogenic movement then classified in two parts. First one, dystrophic movement and a sudden movement. Listen. Dystrophic movement and a sudden movement. Then sudden movement means, for example, volcanic eruption, earthquakes, etc. Then dystrophic movement means example for plate movement. Example for plate movement. Okay. Then most landforms on the earth's surface are the result of such earth movements. As a result of the earth movements, some regions are the earth crust are either raised or lowered. Either part raised or either part lowered. Rising of the crustal portions are called uplift. Listen. Rising of the crustal portions are called uplift. Then lowering the crust are called subsidence. What means uplift? What means uplift? Okay. Rising of the crust portion. Rising of the crust portion is called uplift, and lowering of the crust portions is called lowering is the crust portion. What means crust? Okay. Crust portions of called subsidence. Two types of earth movement, uplift and subsidence. Then next, earthquake. What is an earthquake? Okay, rocks in the deeper part of the earth undergo the displacement and the fall due to the movement and the other cause. Under such a situations, several pressure in exerted on the earth lithosphere and seismic waves. Lithosphere in the seismic waves are generated just like waves in a pond, spreading in all directions when a heavy object of falls in it. Okay, these waves, so many waves. Okay, these waves creation tremors on the earth's surface. These tremors are experienced by an earthquake. Okay. A part of the plate's movement and faulting, earthquakes occur due to the other reason as well. Okay, there are. Then first one, collapse of the roofs of mines. Pressure in reservoirs. Then volcanic eruption. Another volcanic eruption are the 3 points of the plate movement and faulting earthquakes onto the reason. Okay. The deep points inside the earth where the earthquakes occur are known as focus. Means focus, the deep points inside the earth where the earthquakes occurs are known as focus. Then the point vertically above it in the earth's surface is known as epicenter. 2 points, epicenter and focus. Focus means the deep points inside of the earth where the earth occurs are known as focus. Then point vertically above the earth's surface is known as epicenter. Okay. Then 3 types of waves are produced from the during an earthquake. Primary waves, secondary waves and surface waves. 3 types of waves. Primary waves, secondary waves and surface waves. The surface waves are the most destructive waves. Surface waves is the almost destructive waves. Okay, the seismic waves are recorded by an instruments are called seismograph. The seismic waves are recorded by an instruments is called seismograph. Okay, the Richter scale, the another main point, Richter scale. Richter scale is the measures the intensity. Richter scale is the measures the intensity of the energy released at the time of an earthquake. The earthquakes are occurred in the Chile has been the most several one. It is recorded in 9.5 in the Richter scale. 9.5 in the Richter scale. Okay. Then another part, tsunami. The next part, tsunami. Tsunami word is the referred the Japanese word. Okay, Japanese word. Ocean floor generated sea waves rising at several meters. Such a waves are called tsunami. Tsunami. Ocean floor generated sea waves rising to several meters. Such waves are called tsunami. It is the coastal region mainly affected by the destruction effect of tsunami. It is the coastal region mainly affected by the destruction effect of tsunami. The visible impact of tsunami is the damage and destruction of life and property caused by it. Okay, lost the life and lost the property. Okay, this is the importance of tsunami. Then what are the measures can be mitigate the impact of tsunami? Mitigate the impact of tsunami. Okay. Recession in sea level may be indicator of tsunami. If so, move on to safer location. Take official warning seriously. Don't arrive at self-conclusion at the generous situations over. Wait for official declaration. Once trapped by tsunami waves, try to escape holding or faulting materials firmly. These are the mitigations of impact of tsunami. What were the measures weaken the mitigation of impact of tsunami? Then what is NOAA? On behalf of National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, a real-time tsunami mentioned the system named DRAT. DRAT means Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunami. Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting the Tsunami. Okay. This is the tsunami question. The next part, volcanoes. The next, volcanoes. What means volcanoes? Look at the picture, figures 2.12. Look at the picture in textbook 2.12. Haven't you noticed that hot molten rock that comes out through the fissures on the crust? Haven't you noticed? Haven't you noticed the hot molten rock that comes out through the fissures on the crust? The next, volcanoes. Then, haven't you noticed the hot molten rock that comes out through the fissures on the crust? Okay. Volcanoes are formed by such a molten rocks material coming out through the fissures along the plate margin. Okay. Nearly 80% of the world volcanic are situated in around the Pacific Ocean. Okay, 80% situated in Pacific Ocean. Listen, volcanoes are formed by such molten rock material coming out through the fissures along the plate margins. Okay. Nearly 80% of the world volcanoes are situated around the Pacific Ocean. This zone containing more than 452 volcanoes is known as the Pacific Ring of Fire. Listen, Pacific Ring of Fire. Listen. The zone containing more than 452 volcanoes is known as the Pacific Ring of Fire. Pacific Ring of Fire. Okay. Then you know that the volcanoes pose seriously threat to life. You know, volcanoes the seriously threat to life, but they are also useful to many ways. Volcanoes useful to man. but they are also useful to in many ways in humans. Okay. First one, do you want to how they are useful to man? Volcanoes, how they are useful to man? Then so many problems in volcanoes eruption. Then some of the useful of the human man. Then how they are useful to man? First one, volcanic ash is good manner. Volcanic ash is a good manner. Then the soil formed by the weathering of lava rocks is fertile soil. Lava rocks is fertile. For example, the black soil of the Deccan Plateau. Isn't the soil formation by the weathering of lava rocks is fertile. Fertility soil. Black soil. Okay. The black soil of Deccan Plateau. Then another important useful items, geysers. Geysers are formed in many volcanic regions. Such regions are being developed tourist centers. For example, the old faithful geyser, Yellowstone National Park in North America. Yellowstone National Park in North America. Good manner, form a black soil or fertility soil. Then geysers, Geysers are formed in many volcanic regions. Such regions are being developed as a tourist centers. Yellowstone, example, Yellowstone National Park in North America. These are the importance of the volcanic eruption. Okay. Then we discuss the next part. Let us assess. Look at the textbook page number 35. First one, identify the different plates margin. Which are the associated landforms. 3 types of plate margin: convergent margin, divergent margin and shear margins. Okay. Then another questions. The next question. First one, let us assess the first question. Identify the different plate margin, different types of plate margin. 3 types of plate margin: convergent margins, divergent margins and shear margins. Okay. These are the different shear margins, plates margins. Okay. Then next, answer the following question based on earthquakes. How do earthquake occur? Which are the different types of seismic waves? In earthquakes? Primary, secondary and surface waves. 3 types of waves. Then another, which one of the seismic waves cause maximum destruction of the earth surface? Maximum destruction in the earth surface in surface waves. Then which is the scale used of the measures in the intensity of the earthquake? Then next, what do you mean by the Pacific Ring of Fire? Pacific Ring of Fire means zone of containing the more than 452 volcanoes is known as Pacific Ring of Fire. Okay, Pacific Ring of Fire. The last, how are volcanoes useful to mankind? Geysers, ashes, black soil, etc. and etc. Okay. Then take your notebook. Write down some important questions. So, number 1. First one question. Identify the different plates margin. Explain. Identify the different plates margin. Then explain. Convergent margin, divergent margin and shear margin. Okay. Then another question. What do you mean by the Pacific Ring of Fire? Then third question. How are volcanoes useful to man or mankind? Useful to man. Then next question. What is focus? What is focus? What is epicenter? What is focus? What is epicenter? Okay. Then, okay, last question. Focus and epicenter. Epicenter. Now I am going to wind up the class. We see the next class. Okay. Thank you.